This is the story of my life. I'm getting kind of old now. I'm over 50 years old. But my life has been very, very adventurous. I mean, one adventure after the other throughout my whole life. To start out with, I grew up in a little town called Coppell, Texas, just outside of Dallas. And my father was a real serious hunter and a very serious fisherman. So as I was growing up as a child, my father would always take me hunting and fishing. When I was about 6 years old, he started taking me hunting. And what we would do, we'd be going through the fields and he'd see a rabbit and he'd shoot the rabbit. And I'd run out there and I'd pick the rabbit up and I'd bring it back to him. And then we'd be going along and he'd see some dove and he would shoot the dove. And I would go grab the dove and bring it back to him. And that's what I did when I was very young. And then when I was about 10 years old, my father bought me my first 20 gauge shotgun. So then he started letting me go hunting with him. And we would go out into the fields and I would see a rabbit and I would shoot the rabbit, and then he would see a rabbit and he would shoot the rabbit, and that's how I lived as a child. It was a tremendous thing. I had so much respect for my father, and we had such a good time together as I was a child, and I'm very happy for all of that. And when I was in the first grade, I started riding bulls in the rodeo. Now in Coppell, Texas, we had Coppell Junior Rodeo. It was a rodeo, but it was only for kids, and they would ride bulls and bucking horses and do all kinds of rodeo things. They do roping and barrel racing and all of this stuff. And I was doing all of that too, but my biggest thing was riding the bulls. So every Saturday night, I was riding bulls in the rodeo. And I did that until I was 15 years old. And when I was 15 years old, my family moved to Miami, Florida. Now in Miami, Florida, there's no rodeos and there's very little hunting. So what my father and I did is we went straight into the ocean. Now in Texas, when we were catching fish, we were catching, fish about that big, but when we got into the ocean, we were catching big fish. So we really liked that, and we spent a lot of time, fishing in the ocean, and that's how I spent much of the rest of my life with my father until he finally left me. But anyway, that's what we did when we moved to Miami. And after a while, when I got a little older, about 18, I started riding motorcycles. And I got into motorcycles pretty big, and I always had a motorcycle, and I really loved riding my motorcycle. Well, I did that for a while, and then the next thing I did, I started skydiving. Okay? Skydiving, I did that for a lot of years, and it was a tremendous feat. It was a lot of fun, and I did it often, and just enjoyed skydiving. I was jumping out of perfectly good airplanes and landing safely on the ground and having a wonderful time doing it. Okay, I did that for a while. Then I became a boat captain because I'd been in the oceans, with my father for so many years. I just figured I should be a boat captain, so I went and took my course. I went to Chapman School of Seamanship, and I learned how to be a boat captain, and I got my license to be a boat captain. And then what I did for about 20 years, I took charters to the Bahamas. I'd have 3 or 4 guys come down from New York, and they'd want to go to the Bahamas for 3 or 4 days, and they'd get on my boat, and we'd go to the Bahamas, and just snorkel and scuba dive, and just have a wonderful time fishing, everything we can do. And I did that for over 20 years, and that was a lot of fun. And after that, I started flying. And I flew for about 6 years and had a wonderful time flying. And then I crashed my airplane. Well, that kind of put a damper on flying, so I'm not flying anymore. And then after that, I was in Colorado, and I had 2 motorcycle accidents. Both times I was almost killed on a motorcycle. And so that kind of drove me to not want to ride motorcycles anymore. So I don't ride motorcycles anymore, and I don't fly anymore because of those accidents I had. And but I've had so many adventures in my life, and I'm only telling you a few of them. If you're watching me on this YouTube page, you'll see many of my adventures on this page, and there are going to be many more by the time I'm through telling my stories, because I have so many stories to tell, and that was my life.